welcome. You are watching the Askbonbon show, and I am your host, Bonnie Bruder. And today we have another incredible guest for you, and we will be talking about a subject that I feel is so important. We're going to be talking about women in the corporate world. And today I want to introduce all of the viewers to Miss Sheila Ronning, who is the CEO and founder of Women in the Boardroom.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So we all know and we all hear and read that there's not enough women in the corporate world and specifically in boardrooms. So tell us just a little bit about your company and the idea behind it.
So Women in the Boardroom, I started it over 12 years ago, really before anybody was even talking about women being in the boardroom. And of course nowadays that's completely changed, which is great. But you know, back then it was the whole Enron scandal happening, all these different things, and women didn't even know what it meant to think about being in the corporate boardroom, and they didn't know what even went behind, you know, what was happening behind those closed doors or how to get there. So, you know, we started having this annual program where we would, you know, open it up to the masses and have these experienced board directors talking to the women about why they should consider serving on a corporate board, why it would be so great for not only their, you know, their current career and getting to the next level in their career, but also as, you know, potential retirement, you know, a second career after they decided to retire and didn't want to do full-time gardening.
Fantastic.
Yep. And so we had the event, you know, in 15 cities across the U.S. Had, you know, 15,000 women who are attending the program. And about 3 years ago, we completely changed it and started working more one-on-one with senior level executive women, and really helping guide them into the boardroom. And now companies are actually starting to pay attention to us and coming to us with their board openings too. So we then can offer that to our members. And so we're all about helping women get into the corporate boardroom and helping them advance in their career at the same time.
That is fantastic. So I know just before the show we were talking a little bit and I asked you if you had a couple of statistics and you said that you didn't really love those because you know, they're not a true to scale as far as what's possible. But you know, another thing that you said that I really love and I want the viewers to hear is that it's not just about sitting there and whining and women make 72 cents and and all that kind of thing. It's really about, you know, if you want something, you got to make it happen. You got to have the right tools, the right mentors. And it sounds like you have really created a strategy that makes this happen.
Yeah, well, so talking about the statistics, right? I mean, first of all the research is only done on the Fortune 500 public company boards, and you know, there's a lot of other companies out there. So there's so few men or women that are even qualified to serve on those corporate boards. So why are we only focused on those boards when there's thousands and thousands of other companies, right? So whether it's a smaller publicly traded company board or a privately held company board, a for-profit advisory board, all of these different boards that women can start focusing on that actually do need them and they're way more than qualified for.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So for viewers that are watching that don't even really know, you know, exactly what that means, what does it mean to a woman or anyone to sit on a board?
Well, I mean, it will be different if you're serving on a public or a private or even a for-profit advisory board. But really, your main responsibility is to the shareholders. So, you know, it's also to hire and fire the CEO, and you know, what they need to remember is they're not management. So it's, you know, they're not running the day-to-day. They would be overseeing the strategy, not putting the strategy together. And you know, it can be on average, you know, 250 hours a year for some types of boards, and you know, it could be a lot less for other boards, but you know, there's a lot of compensation. There's also a lot of risk too, so people need to really know what they're getting themselves into. And it's also important not to just take the first one that comes your way that's being offered to you. You really need to do your due diligence so that you're not stepping into a risky situation. Whether, I mean, you know, a lot of times, you know, directors and officers insurance could cover that risk, but there's a lot of other personal risk to your reputation that you can't buy insurance for.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how does someone start to work with you? If I'm a women executive and I am interested in your services, what happens? I come across your website and then...
Well, there's many, you can join as a member, or you can just watch some of our webinars or come to our in-person events. It's womenintheboardroom.com, and I have a brief video on there that I've recorded about our VIP program, and you do have to be a senior level executive woman to be in that program. So yes, you'd go to the website, learn more about us, but really what we're doing is we're putting you through a process. It's a proven process. We know it works, and we have a lot of testimonials on our website so you don't have to just take my word for it, right?
Sure.
But it's, we're working with them on their board documents. So that's professional profile, a board bio, and really helping women appear on paper as qualified as they are. I mean, that's a struggle for women, is to accept that they're really amazing at things too, and they just don't like to say they're an expert at anything.
I see.
Yeah, which is completely different from that. I mean, I could go into a whole bunch of analogies on that right at this point, but I don't think we have time.
But another show. We'll have you back for a whole other show.
Yeah. So we work with them on that. We put them through an individualized skill set review, so we really can help them figure out what it is that their skill set is for board service, so that they're able to, board speak, right? And help them with their network. I mean, we hear time and time again that less than 15% of all board seats are filled by a search firm. So that means it's going to come from your network. And even when a board does retain a search firm, the first thing the search firm asks the board is, who do you guys know? And they're all white guys sitting at the table. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's really important to help these women work their network. I mean, women are amazing networkers, but we are horrible at using our network. We don't like to ask for help. We're not big golfers, so we're not out on the golf course with them all the time. But it's we have a really great process that helps them, keep in touch with that amazing network they have, and ask for board seats.
Fabulous. I mean, as you know from my history, I worked for Harvey Mackay for many years, who's probably one of the most famous networkers in the world. And it was either he or Tony Robbins, I can't remember, that would say your network is your net worth.
Oh, yes.
And I believe that to be so true. There's been so many times, and even in life, you don't know throughout your career that you're building a relationship, and then, a decade later, that might transform into something else. But again, as you said, as women, we're afraid to ask for help. We always want to help other people, but, as a whole, we're always not real quick to jump and say, who do you know? What can you do? How can you help?
And, and I get that. And I'm not, when I'm saying to them, we really dig in and help you with your network, that doesn't mean you have to go to 50 new events this month and meet 100 new people. It means knowing who in your network are the right people to really stay connected to, which I always say it's the influencers and the connectors. And I'm not asking you to reach out to them all the time and have it be me. I'm showing them different creative ways to stay in touch with them and have it be more about them than you.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's the secret to networking. It's always, what can I do for you?
Exactly.
And then, again, you never know when that will come full circle. And a lot of times what I find and what I hear, because I do a lot of career coaching with people in transition, I'll say, if it's not a fit for that, ask them, what do you need?
Exactly.
Maybe their daughter needs a new ballet school, and you just happen to have a cousin in their town that runs one. I've had so many things come to people from those types of connections versus going through LinkedIn, which is great. I love LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know.
Trying to fit something, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's relationships.
It's interesting with the career coaching that you do. So when I'm talking to these women and I'm saying, you need to let people know that you're interested in serving on a corporate board, right? But you can't just say, hey, Bonnie, I'm interested in serving on a corporate board. Can you help me? I mean, what are you supposed to do with that information, right? That's like somebody coming to you saying, I'm looking for a job. You don't want to have to be the one to reel it out of them and say, okay, well, what industry, what size company, what do you want to do? So I'm, teaching these women to really be specific and know what size companies they're interested in, what industries, what their skill sets are, that they can bring as a benefit to that board. But we have to remember that our network does want to help us, but we need to help them help us.
It's very true. Specificity is the
Yes.
number one thing that you can do in order to achieve
Yeah.
your goals. If you're not specific, the universe will deliver you anything. And you know, so many times I sit down with people and they'll say, "Oh, I want a relationship," and I'll say, "Do you really?" And say, yes, I really want a boyfriend. They say, well, hold on, you know, you over there, come here,
Right.
because there's a boy, and
Right.
you know, that can work. But if you're specific and you say, this is what I'm looking for, and you know, to your point, it's really, really important with all things. So you mentioned you have testimonials on your site. You must have some really great stories of people that you've been able to place. Can you share with our viewers a couple of those stories?
So I don't use the word place because we're not a search firm. Right?
Okay.
So I connect people.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm always saying that just to let people know, because we're not a placement or a search
Sure.
firm, right? And we're not doing the vetting. So we have, I love the testimonial from one of our members who, after 6 months of joining, which by the way is not normal. I mean, we hear on average it takes 3 to 5 years to get onto your first corporate board, and yet she got onto her first board after 6 months of joining as a VIP member, which is great. But again, it's not the norm. I don't want people to think it's the norm. But she gave us a testimonial and said, I got into my first corporate board through my own network, but I'm giving women in the boardroom 100% credit, because had I not joined as a VIP member, I wouldn't have followed their process. I wouldn't have reached out to my network, and I wouldn't have talked to my network like they told me to, and I wouldn't have gotten onto this board.
Fabulous.
I know.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and then another member, she, we talked to her a lot about going out and speaking on, her subject matter. I mean, when you're known as an expert in your field, you get a lot of speaking gigs. You got a lot of PR that way. Mm-hmm. And she ended up getting onto a public board because she was a speaker, and she was fighting it the whole time. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And she's like, well, I made myself go do it, and you're not going to believe it, but now I'm on this public board.
That is fantastic. Wow.
Yeah.
Must feel really great to have a career where you're, getting people into their dreams and getting them into.
Well, and I'm doing what I love to do.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So what inspired you to take this path?
I am a serial entrepreneur, as I think you are.
Yes.
Yes. So
guilty.
So I started my business many years ago as a sales, marketing, and PR consultant. And I was in the Minneapolis area, so the big Twin Cities, right?
Yes.
And started this consulting business. And back in the late 90s, I mean, I was like 10, but look at those.
That's funny. Yeah. I was also 10.
Yes, I know, right? So I started this business, and at that time, in order to go to networking events, you always had to be a member of something. And even though the Twin Cities is a very small market, it's extremely spread out. Mm-hmm. So they had 10, 15 different chambers of commerce, and I was supposed to join every one of them. Well, one, I didn't have the money to join all these different chambers to go meet all these different people, and two, I didn't have the time to go drive around to all these networking events. So I ended up creating my own networking event in the Twin Cities, which became the largest business-to-business networking event. I had it 5 times a year there. It was basically a big party, right? I mean, it was small business owners.
Sounds great.
Getting together. They loved it. I'm a master networker, and so I was very strict about the types of people that would be exhibiting there and attending. I didn't want those people that came in and just were looking at your name tag and then trying to sell you something. Mm-hmm. It had to be a networking event. It was all about building relationships. And so I did that for years, and my mentor had actually said to me, okay, you're obviously really good at getting people in the room. And she said, I would love it if you would start an event on helping women get into the corporate boardroom. And I'm like, I do not know what you're talking about. I had no idea. I was, in small business.
Yes.
And so obviously I figured it out. So I started the annual event in Minneapolis, and, grew to 600 people every year. And then my mentor said to me, okay, now start taking it to other cities. And I'm like, what the hell? Are you kidding me? Do business outside of Minnesota?
Mm-hmm.
But I did.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And now you're here in New York, the biggest
Yes.
city in America.
Yeah, well, the center of the universe.
Well, yes, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Wow, that's a really great story. And having been an event producer for many, many years, I know that that is one of the biggest challenges that people have is getting people into the room and
Yes.
getting the right people.
Yes.
You know, you can have a
Yeah.
great talent and a great concept, but filling those seats. So that's pretty remarkable that you grew to up to 600 people.
Yeah,
Extraordinary.
You know, it was great. But then, I mean, many things happened. It was, you know, the financial crisis kind of just wiped everything out. And not only did we, you know, we were losing sponsorships left and right because nobody had any marketing dollars. And women at that time, you know, really needed to keep their head down and not go to events. I mean, people were being fired left and right, and in order to hold on your job, you're doing basically 2 or 3 people's jobs. So you couldn't go to an event anymore. So that, you know, that totally dwindled out, but that's when I rolled out the membership platform, which was the best thing I could have ever done.
Fantastic.
Because now I feel like we're actually making some good traction too.
Well, that's great, and then it gives a lot of people access, right? It's not just, you know, if I am a CEO or a COO of a company and I might have a certain income, but it sounds like it's affordable or
Yeah.
accessible, rather, to a lot of
you know, we
tiers of
have
people.
different levels of membership, and you know, we do so much knowledge sharing on our webinars, and they're all recorded, so you can always watch them at a later time too. But those are, you know, those are available to everybody. They can go and watch those. I mean, they're $35, but there's so much great content. I mean, I think we have probably 60 or 70 webinars now that are on our website, so it's a lot of great content there.
That is
and
fantastic.
it's not just focused on boardroom. I mean, you cannot go into the boardroom without being a great leader,
Right.
and then without, you know, you can't be a great leader without the different coaching elements too,
Sure.
right? So there's a lot of different programs that we have that are, you know, this one woman in New York, she did a session on, you know, success under stress and gave tips on, you know, little breathing tips that you can do, or, you know, like this 5-5 count of de-stressing when you're in a meeting or in that tense situation.
Yes.
You know,
Very
when those people
interesting.
trigger us.
It can happen.
It
Hopefully,
happens. Yes.
we have enough tools and strategies
Yes.
to make sure that
Yes.
doesn't happen for people.
Yeah.
But it's very true, and it's always good to learn. And, you know, to your point, it's not just in that one element. You have to be a good networker with everything. You have to be a good networker when you're walking to the subway. You have to be, because those are the times. I've had a couple of instances lately. The other day I was waiting for my car,
Yes.
and I was freezing, so I was kind of doing this skit about the people, you know, playfully, the people that run the garage.
Yeah.
And this man was just watching, waiting for his car, and cracking up, and he goes, "Are you in marketing? What do you do?"
Yeah.
And I ended up, anyway, I said, "No, I'm an executive coach." And he said, you know, he was working on a prototype for a very large global company. And fast forward, he ended up hiring me to
So awesome.
spearhead the
Yes.
executive coaching element of it. So, but
Yep.
it comes from that point. It's just like, instead of being like, "Oh, where's my car?" I thought, you know, I'm going to make the most of this scenario. And
You've
I'm
always
gonna,
got to be on your A game.
Yes.
Everybody's always watching you,
Yes.
right?
Exactly. And I have another funny story like that, and then we'll close up with a couple more your stories.
Yeah.
But the other day I was getting a haircut. We go to the same salon. And I was walking home, and it was a lovely evening, and I said, you know, I'm going to duck in, and I'm going to have a nice glass of wine in this beautiful Italian restaurant. Well, fast forward, I ended up sitting next to this gentleman who is the voice of Pinocchio in those insurance commercials. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah.
But more importantly, he's working on a reality show where they take underprivileged children and they house them in a jail cell. And they have famous boxers. Mike Tyson is involved with the project, and one other boxer. And they basically are teaching them certain skills, but if you progress, you get to move forward, and then these trainers work with you and they teach you skills. And if you don't, you're in the curriculum as a prisoner would be, and you're doing. So it's a very innovative, scared straight kind of approach, and it's a reality show, but he said we need a female motivator and a female. So again, those all come from your network. I could have just not spoken to the man. Yes.
So, oh my gosh, that is awesome.
So, but the thing is that, you know, those are the times and those are the skills, and it sounds like you're teaching people those valuable skills of just asking, you know, here you are, just sitting there, but talk to your neighbors. Who are you? What are you up to? What are you doing? And then it transpires that you have a very important connection. And So I love the work that you do. That's why we wanted to have you on, because
Yes.
people need to know that generally in any moment, I mean, especially here in New York City, if you're sitting in a restaurant or a cafe, the person that you need to know most to achieve your dream is probably within that sphere of influence.
Absolutely.
So
What is it, 7 degrees
7 degrees, yeah.
from Kevin Bacon?
Right. Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yes, right.
So, great. Well, so tell us one or two more quick stories or just successes or tips that you have for people that are interested in this topic.
Well, I mean, great point about, you always have to be on your A game.
Yes.
Right? I mean, no matter where you are, and it's not always easy, and if you don't feel like you can be on your A game, you might want to just take a nap or stay home, right? Because you have to be on your A game. I mean, we all feel that, especially here. I mean, it's like people are running into you, and you're just like, oh. But you have to. You have to remember you're always being watched. But if people want to get to the next level, and obviously my goal is to get more women into the corporate boardroom. But and you probably can speak to this even better than I can as an executive coach. But you really need to have a plan to take you there.
Right.
Right? I mean, figure out what it is that you want. You have to set your goals and work towards those. But, certainly you can serve on, some nonprofit boards. And I always say, like, listen, when people come to me and say, well, can you help me get onto a nonprofit board? Or a nonprofit board will come to me and say, can you help us find some board members? And my thing is that I never want women to stop doing their charitable work. I think our country would be in a really bad place if they did. But in order to use their nonprofit board service for, getting to the next step in a corporate boardroom, they really need to make sure that they're serving on nonprofit boards that are large nonprofit boards, well-run nonprofit boards, so that they're learning good corporate governance. They need to make sure that they're passionate about it. They need to make sure that they're taking a leadership role on that board. They need to make sure there's men serving on that board, because it's a networking opportunity. And they need to make sure that they're showing up. I mean, how many times have you been on a nonprofit board where a lot of, most board members weren't even there? And that's not good for your reputation either. But I always say that I do not help women get, I have no desire to help women volunteer 1 more minute of their time. I'm only about helping them get those paid board seats.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for the work you do. And thank you for being here on this episode of Askbonbon. I know a lot of our viewers are very interested in this topic, so it's been an honor and a privilege to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor being here with you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
So much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been the Askbonbon Show, where we interview some of the most interesting people here in New York and around the globe, and we teach you what you need to know in order to create the life that you love. We'll see you on the next episode.